Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest joining us on the I Drink From Skulls podcast today. We have the Renegade from Rosemont, the Pulverizer from Plymouth. We have the founder and CEO of Roofer Marketers, Mr. Jim Ahlin.
Good. Thanks for having me.
It is a pleasure to have you join the I Drink From Skulls podcast. You've been podcasting for quite a while, is that right?
Yeah, 2019 is when I started the Roofing Success podcast. So almost 150 episodes in at this time.
Damn.
So,
well, you'll have to grade me at the end of this bad boy. Give me some tips. Help me out, Jim.
Oh, you're doing fine.
Let's go. I drink from skulls, drink from the skulls of my enemies.
For the benefit of everyone watching today, my good man, who is Jim Ahlin?
Yeah, like you said, I'm the co-founder of Roofer Marketers. That's how we kind of connected, right, as being in the marketing side of the roofing industry. You know, going back a long ways, I was the kid with the paper route at 11 years old, selling candy door to door at 12, 13 years old. Always been entrepreneurial. Took a little while to kind of find my way. I graduated college 10 years after I graduated high school, and that degree was in management of information systems, which is like half computer science, half business administration. And that was in the very early 2000s, and I was like, man, how could we go wrong here? Then I realized that I'm not a programmer, Matt. And searching for semicolons and capital letters was not in my future, and that entrepreneurialness came back out. And I've always been involved in businesses, a lot of real estate businesses, mortgage businesses, and then that led to, along the way, I knew how to build these websites and these things. So I always became the guy in the business to do that kind of digital marketing. And then other friends of mine would be like, hey, you know how to do that website thing, right? Like, can you make one for me? And that progressed over time. So I learned Facebook ads, selling t-shirts on Facebook back in like 2009,
Oh, wow.
you know, Google ads, running Google ads for my real estate business and mortgage businesses. And that all kind of came together I into Roofer Marketers, where I met my business partner, Brian Niebler, and back in 2018, we formed Roofer Marketers.
So you've always had the entrepreneurial bug. I love that.
Before they called it that, right? Like before it was like cool. It was just like, I know that I want to own businesses, or I want to do something myself. You know, I want to build something myself. So
I love that. And, you know, the name of the business, Roofer Marketers, says it all. How did you get into the roofing industry? Love to hear more about that.
Yeah. So there was a point in time where I was doing a fair amount of real estate investing, fix and flips and things like that. And I was GCing all my own projects. And like, again, people would ask, hey, can you do this? Can you help me with that? And at that point in time, a lot of them were contractors. And then, so I started doing work for more and more contractors, a few roofing contractors. And then my business partner, Brian Niebler, had a couple of clients that were roofing contractors also. And we both, I don't know what it is about this industry, but it finds you in a way.
Yeah.
Right. Like but I definitely like the people, everything about the industry is kind of, we were like, yeah, that's the way we want to go. I couldn't be a marketer for an attorney or, like, it's just not me. So.
Gotcha. The roofing industry called you 2018, fast forward to 2023 now, and have to help me fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
But from what I know, you work with hundreds of clients. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah.
A couple of hundred clients, which is just fantastic and amazing in pretty much every state of the U.S.
Yeah.
I'm taking an education. Yeah. Awesome.
Retail, storm restoration, almost all of our contractors are more on the retail or on the residential side. Some do commercial also, but more that direct to consumer is where that marketing, which you know very well, you know.
Yeah, love that. That's amazing. And you guys, there's a heavy focus on SEO. Do you do some pay-per-click and Google sort of stuff, Facebook? Or?
Yeah, we focus on kind of an omnipresent framework, right? So online, that's, your website and your SEO for your website, your Google business profile optimization, your Google ads, search and display, your Google local services ads, and then your social media advertising. So we're focused on all of those components.
And how does it work with, like, let's say, does someone reach out to you? How are roofers finding you guys?
Yeah, mostly, we do like, we do, like we do a lot of content, right? So the podcast, our YouTube channel, monthly webinars, where we lead with education, speak at a lot of the industry events. When we founded Roofer Marketers, we put an equal emphasis on the results for our current client base, and then also on educating the industry on things that they can do. So, I think in doing that really has been an attraction to our company for a lot of roofers.
100%. Because that's one thing that we see. You probably dealt with it more than anyone. I see it all the time. Is that roofers they've paid some money to someone, who knows who. Maybe they live in a basement with their mum. They took a course. They think they're a marketer, and they don't really know what they're doing. But they've been able to sell a roofer or a contractor and not deliver results. So, how do you do you see that much? Do you experience that?
Yeah, you mean Kenny with a keyboard, right? Like, instead of Chuck in a truck, I call him Kenny with a keyboard, right?
Yeah, I like that.
It's there's a lot of that, right? I mean, you're in the space too. There's a lot of dreams being sold from the digital marketing coaches out there, of how to do this, and I don't fault people for trying.
No.
Right? Like, that's one of the things that I see a lot. Like, it's the same thing with the guy that, starts up his own contracting business. Like, man, in the beginning, you're probably not going to do a good job on a lot of things, right? There's a learning process. But I also think that there's maybe an honesty to it, right? Like, you have to be honest about that. Not overpromise and underdeliver, especially in those stages. I love competition. I love more and more marketers, coming into the business and industry, but we definitely want them to execute and help the contractors, right? It's unfortunate when people, invest a lot of money and don't get anything in return. That also falls on the contractors some too. What does your hat say there, Matt?
Call the damn leads.
Right? Like, right there,
even on the shirt.
And call the damn leads. Like, there's another thing is in this aspect is self-awareness, right? Is your company ready to take on leads? Who's going to answer the phone? What's the process of the appointment set? What's your sales presentation look like? What is your follow-up from your sales presentation all the way through production? How are you communicating with your customers through the production process? And then how are you turning those people into referrals down the road? So, a lot of times I think you have marketers that are maybe just starting out, right? You got Kenny and a keyboard trying to sell his services to Chuck in a truck, and it just, nothing's going to work well there. Nothing's going to work out well.
Yeah, 100%. How do you, let's say someone's come in, what's your process look like in terms of seeing if you can help a roofer or not?
Yeah, for us, our main thing is goals, right? So we want to have a conversation around goals. What did you do in revenue last year? What's your goal for this year? What things do you have in place to get to those goals? What things do you need to put in place? What's your current lead flow look like? I like to talk about this, Matt, if you're at 2 million in revenue, right? And if you don't do anything different next year, you'll still get to that 2 million in revenue. Maybe you've been in business for a while, people are referring you, right? You have enough lead flow coming in for that $2 million revenue level.
Yeah.
But if it changes for you, and now you're like, you know what? I want to double next year. I want to get to 4 million in revenue. There's a gap there, right? Between that 2 and 4 million that you have to fill. And so marketing is essentially just buying market share. So you're going to have to go out and buy that additional 2 million, right? And that's going to be through your marketing, whether you're knocking doors, whether you're doing Facebook ads, you're working on your SEO, whatever you're doing, you're going to have to go out there and buy that market share. So that's kind of what we're looking at, right? We want to know where you're at, kind of what gap you need to fill, the expectations that you have in terms of customer acquisition cost. What is a good customer acquisition cost for you? If you tell me that, nothing over, we don't want to pay over $50 for a customer. That's going to be a tough one, right? Like, that's a
Very
click
tough.
On Google ads. You know what I mean? Like, there's, so understanding the expectations of the contractor and knowing if they're realistic expectations, timeline expectations. There's a lot of contractors that are like, I'll give you $1,000. I'll put $1,000 if that turns into some kind of magic, I'll invest another 1,000. That's not, so we're making sure that that's not going to happen with us. We do long-term plans. SEO takes time. Everything takes time. There are some things that are faster than others. The paid advertising side, of course, is faster than the SEO in a lot of cases, but we want to make sure that hey, we're in line, and we're looking for companies that we can more partner with and be a resource to than have any kind of adversarial relationship with.
Yeah, and I think that if people really sat down, I guess we'll focus on roofers specifically. If a roofer really sat down and thought about it and went to himself, okay, I'm going to give something 1 month, and if it doesn't work, it's done.
Yeah.
Like, in terms of reality, it's very difficult to get an exceptional result in 1 month. I've done it. You've definitely done it in the past. But if you don't have that long-term view and a long-term approach to investing in your business, to growing your business, it's going to fall apart pretty quick, really.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's the long-term vision. And I kind of like in the results factor, right? It's always really big results that people want, which of course is amazing. I mean, that's what you want for your business. But, let's look at it in terms of fitness, right? If you want to go and become Mr. Olympia, you go to your local gym and you're like, hey, I'm going to try this for a month. If I'm not Mr. Olympia, I'm out.
Yeah.
Well, no, man, you gotta work your way through the process. You got to build a little muscle. You got to build, and you have to understand that you're making small gains for over time. Those turn into huge gains. So yeah, expectations are tough, man. And part of the challenge of the expectations are those Kenny with the keyboards, right? Are those unscrupulous marketing companies that promise magic, right? But it's not magic, man. It's just marketing.
Yeah. And just on the expectation, what is it that you set? Roofers come in, they've you're going through your process, or the team's going through the sales process. You've identified where they're at, where they're looking to get to. There is the gap there. They've got a good growth mindset. What do you sort of say to them next in terms of, let's just focus on SEO, and we can do a little bit about PPC as well?
Yeah. So we focus on the kind of the reason that we do it all at the same time is because it's the plant a tree now, right? Or when's the best time to plant a tree, right? Now, 20 years ago or now, right? And so we want to get the SEO started because that's going to take some time to build up. And it varies a lot, right? Are you a brand new company? Are you very established? Like there's a lot of nuance in that of how long it will take to start getting more effective results in your SEO. But in the meantime, let's start buying some leads, right? Let's go to Google ads. Let's go to Facebook ads, Instagram ads. Let's go and buy some market share to start creating some cash flow that supports your marketing efforts through time, right? It's tough to do. To me, it seems tough to do one or the other, right? Because with paid ads are amazing because you could get to you could get to customers quickly, right? And you could get those leads generating quickly. But when you turn them off, you turn them off. With SEO, it may take a longer period of time to get to those customers, to get to those leads. Once you're there, you can't turn it off, right? So I think that the balance is very important.
And are you seeing that with a lot of roofers? Do they want to do a combination of both, or is it more like a budget thing?
Yeah, I think it's a budget thing, right?
Yeah.
For sure, it's a budget thing. And I think in terms of budget, I look at contractors like $1.5 million gross revenue and below, like a goal there. That's kind of that startup phase, right? You're very self-employed in that stage, right? You're probably doing everything. You probably don't have a lot of money to invest, and your time is limited too because you're doing so many things. A lot of times, we kind of start people off with, hey, let's start your SEO now, right? And we have a program that's for that person, right? That contractor.
Got you.
Where it's not an enormous investment, but it's the beginnings of it, right? And then from there, it's like, hey, go and do some other marketing, go and knock some doors, go and do the other things to keep that, to build that business. And then as you move up in that $1.5 million to $3 million range, now you start to, all right, we have a little bit of time along with our money, right? We can hire a couple of people, we can hire some people in our business, we could allocate some funds for marketing. Now there's kind of, that's that middle stage, but maybe you don't you don't have you're still self-employed a lot in that phase, right? Then when you get above that is where we see a lot of contractors that are more business owners, right? They're starting to move out of some of the roles in the business. They have a good team in place. And then that type of contractor needs a different things, right? They need more of a lot of things.
Got you. And so is that you break that down, you have a look at where they're at, which we focused on a little bit just before. Do you recommend they go and get reviews?
Oh, heck yeah, man.
Yeah.
Right.
Gotcha.
And everything performs better with a company that has great reviews. And I mean, I'd love your input on this on the Facebook ads side of things, but I've always been really like Google reviews on Google will make all of your paid advertising better because people look you up.
Yeah.
It'll increase your sales rates, your conversion rates on your sales. It'll increase the conversion rates on your on people reaching out to you from a lead. Everything is better when you have a great reputation on Google.
Absolutely. I think that goes across the board. When I say I know with certainty, it goes across the board. It won't necessarily affect the cost of the lead coming in with a Facebook ad, but it 100% affects the percentage of people that go and look at the website. Normally with Facebook ads, we'll see an increase in sort of 15% in website traffic. So I put that down to we see the ad, we get their attention, then they're like, okay, well, who the hell are these guys?
Yep.
Just seen an ad. So they're doing a bit of research. And if you don't have any reviews, or if you have very limited reviews, you're putting yourself in a very tough position versus someone who has a ton of different reviews, or even just a good number of reviews. So it makes the sales process that much harder, which makes sense, right?
Because people don't, people are looking they want someone that they can trust, right? There are contractors on the news, on the nightly news across the United States and probably in Australia too, right? Like that, contractors on the news who scammed grandma, right? Took grandma's money, ripped off these people, did that, so people are looking for that trust factor. And that's kind of what we do in that beginning stage is that the website that we build for them. When someone hits that website, they have some Facebook ads running now. Someone goes to the website. Professional. It has authentic photos of them and their team, and if they have a team, or just them and their family even, or something that is more a higher level of authenticity than some GoDaddy website that you stuck together. And I did a podcast episode with a guy named Ryan Kettering from Prolific Brand Design. Brand expert, love this dude. One of the things he said is you have a brand whether you know it or not. And this is kind of to the point of what you're talking about, right? You're increasing these website visits with the Facebook ads you're running. You have a brand whether you know it or not. So when people go and visit your website and look at your Google reviews, that's part of your brand. Just the same way as when you pull up in front of their house with your truck, right? If you have a newer truck, professionally wrapped, looks good, clean, right? Or you pull up in a rusty 1997 Ford F-150 with a magnet stuck on the side, right?
Yeah.
That Ford F-150 with the magnet stuck on the side, the brand of that company is you can negotiate with me.
Yeah.
Right? The professionally wrapped truck, the more professional appearance in your website, in your Facebook page, in your social media postings, in all of those things, it builds trust.
Absolutely. Well, I even go down to like further detail, and no doubt you do as well with roofers. Like, are you showing up on time for your appointments? Are you dressed for success? Do you look the part? And when I mean on time, I mean 10 minutes early. How are you presenting? It all plays that part, because that first impression is so important. Yep. You have a couple of seconds to either win someone over or lose them. Humans make that decision subconsciously very quickly. So if you're late, if you've rocked up, if your truck's a mess, it's all these if you're someone who's canceling and trying to reschedule appointments, you lose that trust so quick. And then from the other side of it, if the marketing's not congruent, let's say we've got ads saying, whatever they say, we get you this roof for free, like whatever. And then the website's nice and professional, clean, and they're not congruent. You're going to have problems there, really, aren't you?
You are. Here's an example of it that just happened recently. My wife gets a lot of Facebook ads and she loves to click on them. And there was a solar ad that came across her page, and it was like it had solar panels on like the side of the house, something. It was a different image, right? And so she's like, what is that? Like, and she gets down a funnel, right? She gets in the funnel and all of a sudden there's an appointment booked and she's like, all right, whatever. I'll have, let someone come out and chat with me. And the guy shows up 20 minutes late in a car with the bumper was like broken a little bit and hanging off a little bit. Very not well kept, dirty shoes, different, she was like, yeah, no, we're not sitting at the kitchen table. Not a chance, right?
Yeah.
Like, not a chance and then she was in the congruency that you're talking about between the ad copy and the image in the ad versus the expectation. She was like, no, I was kind of interested in the image in the ad had this thing that I hadn't really seen before. It was like solar panels on the side of a house. He's like, oh, that's just the lead gen company that we, like, you're out, bud. Like, that was,
it's done.
That was wasted money right there, for the company that employs him. So, yeah, man, you got to have that congruency and people, the professionalism, especially, I'm sure you've noticed, Matt, over the years, the professionalism in the roofing industry has exponentially increased. Man, there's a lot of great companies out there right now. And if you have to compete with some really professional companies with well-designed customer experiences, right? Well thought out brands, it's something that you have to consider as a contractor. Like you have to keep your game up, right? Step your game up.
And that's kind of guess that will lead us into our next topic, which I'm keen to talk to you about. Just quickly though, if we think about what's happening in the roofing space, there's a lot of private equity money coming in. There's companies being bought and invested in from industries that absolutely kill and crush the client experience. There's been a flood of attention into the roofing space because number one, it's lucrative. Number two, it's recession proof. It's a great industry. So it only makes sense that the professionalism is just going to continue to flood in. And when the level and the standard is raised, it's going to continue. There's only one way, and that's up. That's a long-winded way of me getting into my question, which I saw recently. Unless you've been asleep in the roofing industry, you wouldn't have seen it. But you've recently been acquired by Job Nimbus.
Yeah.
So number one, congratulations. I think that was so awesome. When I saw that, I was like, wow, that's amazing. Got to ask you about that at some point. Number two, how did that come about? How what's the experience been so far?
So that came about by Job Nimbus. It's kind of a standard thing not a standard thing, I should say, but it happens in the industry. So Job Nimbus surveyed all their clients. They do a client survey every year. And the number one thing a couple years in a row were marketing, like that people needed help with marketing. And any live events that they do, people are talking, they're like, hey, we need help with marketing. And so it fits together so well, right? Software like Job Nimbus, helping people to really systematize their businesses and create efficiencies through technology in their businesses. Boy, when that happens, now it's like, oh, we can turn the volume up on our lead flow. We can really grow this thing and have the understanding of that. So with that, they'd been reaching out and talking to us for a while. And we were not thinking about selling, but I'll tell you, I truly believe that every business should be built to sell.
100%.
Right. And if you build a business to sell, you are building a business. And that's separate from being self-employed, right? If you want to be the person in your business and do everything all day, every day, that's where you're going to get stuck. You're not building a business. So when I say I think all businesses should be built to sell, it's that everything should be built in a business way, right? Standard operating procedures, building a company culture, core values, and all of those things that go into building a business. And so they started reaching out because they were getting such feedback from their customers about marketing. They looked out into the space, and we were there and started having conversations. And the CEO, Ben Hodson, and I did a business building series for Job Nimbus, a web series that's on their YouTube channel. And it became very apparent that we were in alignment on a lot of things. And so that's when the conversation started to progress a little bit more, but we didn't feel we were in a place, right? Businesses get sold on multiples. I have friends that own agencies that have sold. I know what they sold for. We had goals in terms of where we wanted to get the business to before we sold, because we wanted, we had our goals of if we did ever sell. And so, there was a time where essentially they came to us and they were like, hey, just give us a shot. Let's see what we can do. And so we had more further conversations, and we're, again, it's crazy, the alignment that we had. It was weird. Almost our core values were almost were eerily similar. We both run EOS in the business. So we're both structured very similarly. Our team culture and their team culture, our whole team flew out to the Job Nimbus offices, and we were all out there for a week. It was like we'd all worked together for years. And then we both had the same vision into the future. That, Job Nimbus's mission is making contractors heroes. And that was, almost in different words than what we were doing, right? And so there was a lot of cool things and a lot of opportunity for us, right? A lot of opportunity to serve hundreds and hundreds of additional contractors that are Job Nimbus users. And so that's how it kind of came about. And Brian and I looked at it, and we were like, it was so strange how well we aligned. So we're like, let's do it.
Let's do it.
You know?
And you shared so many cool things, and I want to focus a little bit more on EOS, what that is for roofers, contractors, marketers, anyone that watches, the importance of that. My wife and I implemented Traction, the book Traction, and EOS, our version of EOS, mid-2021. It's the most powerful thing I've ever done in business. Traction, for me personally, is the best book I've ever read related to that thing. Talk to us about EOS, setting yourself up to be sold. You don't have to sell, but to be in the position to be. I'd love to hear more.
Yeah, be in a position to be. And so EOS is the entrepreneurial operating system. So it's a framework to run your business, right? In theory, you start with your core values, developing your core values, and then you start with an organizational chart. But it's not an organizational chart of the people in your business. It's the seats that you will need in your business as you grow, right? So you have all of these seats, you define those seats, and then you start to write people's names in them afterwards, right? Which I think is a real powerful exercise. I don't know if you did that, Matt, when you guys got started with EOS, and it was like, whoa, I'm sitting in a lot of seats.
A lot of seats over here. Katie, a lot of seats. Matt, a lot of seats.
That's right. And so, but then that's a level of self-awareness. I think that gives you a level of self-awareness. And if you have self-awareness with, true self-awareness, you'll know which of the seats you would rather be in or should be in. And all of us have different strengths and weaknesses. And so maybe you're more operational minded. You maybe need to be in those operational seats. You may be more of a salesperson. You may need to be in those sales seats and so getting that clear understanding there of that. Then on an ongoing basis, they have a rhythm of how to meet and deal with issues in your company. So they're called level 10 meetings and quarterly rocks. So the concept is, to fill a glass, if you put the sand in first, it'll fill the glass. If you put the sand in first, it'll fill the glass. And then there's no room for the rocks and pebbles, right? But if you put the rocks in first and then the pebbles, you'll be able to put the sand in also. So that's where that's kind of the foundation of it. So your rocks are things that you do on a quarterly basis that are the big things that move the business forward. And that's why it's called Traction. That's why the book is called Traction. That's how you gain traction in your business, is by getting those 90-day, the big things done. Ongoing basis, on a weekly basis, in your what are called level 10 meetings, you're dealing with issues. And those issues are things that can be solved in a week, right? So things that can be solved quickly. And this is what we did. We started implementing it in 2021 also, Matt, and it was like the first quarter that we did this, we were like, we got so much done. I can't even believe it. Is that how you felt?
100%.
It was crazy.
Yeah, yeah. It's the best experience I've ever had. Even like starting right at the start, getting the vision dialed in, core values, you then know how to operate. You then know exactly what you stand for. You know who to attract and why. And then the accountability chart, that was super powerful too, because it's not about where you're at right now.
No.
You're a smaller business. You're going to be wearing a ton of different hats, but it is about having that vision and foresight of looking to go like where you want to be and what roles are required and who's the right person to sit in that seat. So I found it the best experience I've ever gone through in business. I don't know how we operated without it, to be honest, but
One of my other favorite things is the people analyzer. So
Yeah.
as you grow your team, instead of doing like quarterly reviews with your team and, kind of, hey, how you doing, this and that, you do a people analyzer. And it's essentially you rate everyone on your team against your core values. So a plus, a minus, or a plus minus. So a plus says that they exude your core value. A plus minus, they're in between, and a minus is they're working against your core value. And then so you get to look at that, and boy, it brings to light the people who are not in alignment with your core values really quickly. Then there's a second part to that. It's get it, want it, and have the capacity. And in that, it's do they get the role, right? So you want someone who's aligned with your core values, but are they in the right seat? Is the second question to that. So do they get it? Do they want it? And do they have the capacity? Sometimes you have people that work for you that are amazing. You hired them for one role, but they just don't, either they don't want it, they don't like that what they're doing, they don't get it, they're just not getting it. And so you get to say, well, maybe this person is better in this seat or that seat, but they align with your core values, which is the most important. So that to me, man, that was another one that was like, it was very eye-opening. It identifies the people that potentially can be toxic to your culture really quickly.
something that anyone who's caught any of those nuggets needs to do is go and buy the book Traction, buy it on audio. Did you have someone help you implement? We did.
We did, yeah. We did.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot. It's a lot of stuff.
It is.
I know people that have self-implemented or even just implemented a couple of things from it, and it's worked. We did it probably over the course of I think it was over the course of about 9 months that we implemented everything. Yeah.
As I said, it's been the most powerful thing I've done in business. Another system that's equally as great is called Scaling Up by Vern Horst. It's probably it's got a little bit more in it, a little bit more meat, but you can't go wrong with either of them. Shows you how to have that structure that you need, how to implement, how to have a real business.
Yeah.
And not just be running around like a lunatic with no tracking or recording of standard operating procedures. It really does help you systematize the business. Hey?
It's like, I don't know your background specifically, but I never worked for a big company. Right? I never had that experience of the organizational structure and the meeting cadence and of a large, a Fortune 500 kind of company, right? And so as you're starting businesses, you don't have the vision of what that would look like at scale, right? And so these, like you're saying, Scaling Up and Traction are two very, very great ways that someone that hasn't had that type of experience can start to put that framework together in their businesses.
Yeah, I love that. And I guess without an EOS, it would have been a different conversation with Job Nimbus or anyone that was looking to acquire or invest in a business.
It is. One of the things I noticed too, because I coach digital agency owners through a group called the 7-Figure Agency, and it's all, in putting together all of your processes and really documenting things and having trainings and having, everything in place to, onboard not just a client, take a client through the fulfillment of your services, but also bringing on new employees and training them. And the more you have built out around that, the more attractive you are. Kind of taking the private equity conversation back to the roofing industry, we see, I've seen kind of two examples in the roofing industry now. There's a lot of private equity money coming in to invest in the roofing industry, as you said, and it seems to me that they're looking for a company to make a platform out of, or they're looking for companies to attach to an existing platform. And when I'm talking about platform, it's the companies that they're looking for in that regard seem to be ones that have their systems and processes dialed in, right? And then they can take that model and replicate it into future acquisitions. And they go and find a struggling, or not a struggling, but a less organized $5 million company, but they could take these processes, implement that, and that $5 million company becomes 15 overnight, right? That's the type of idea that private equity is looking for. So you have two opportunities. You have the opportunity to attach your company to a platform, and maybe that will help your business. Then you don't have to create everything, right? Or probably an avenue with a potential higher return would be if you had all of your stuff in line and someone acquired you to become the platform to roll other companies under. But I'll tell you, there's an opportunity right now that I don't think most contractors would ever have imagined that they would have in their lifetime.
Yeah.
Right. Like, it is so cool, man. Like we have a client that exited recently. When they started with us, they were a $5 million company. They I think over the 3 years they were with us, 2.5, 3 years, they grew to about 12 million. And they did their exit, man. And it was, it's just a family business, right? Like it's a generational wealth change. This person's family has changed probably for many generations to come because of the opportunity that is coming from these private equity funds, right? Now, I know you threw out a couple of things there in there that, the customer experience may become diminished over time with some of these, when some of this money hits the market, because they're looking at different aspects of things, right? They're looking at efficiencies and profitability sometimes, or where you might think they're looking for profitability over the customer experience. It's pretty cool, man. There's a lot of stuff that a contractor has open to them now that they didn't before.
It's amazing. Maybe 10, 20 years ago, a roofer or a contractor thinking about true exit strategy that could create generational wealth, a real succession plan. That's the reality now.
Yeah.
That's available. That's
where we're at. Yeah, years ago it was, most contractors would sell to an employee, right? Like that was kind of the option. And you got, maybe a 2-3 multiple on your revenue, and and they didn't give you all the money up at once, right? This is like you kind of seller financed the deal over 10 years with them, and hope they didn't run it into the ground, and they were able to pay you. It's a much different world. So
that's so cool. And I guess that's, like you've shown firsthand, leading the industry. It's whilst it's roofing specific, we are in the roofing industry, advertisers, marketers, SEO companies, and everyone in between. So software companies, CRMs, like it is there. If you've got something that's delivering real tangible results and you've got an actual business out of it, it could be an opportunity for you.
Yeah, it's really cool, man. It was a really great experience to go through. It was a very painful experience.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of due diligence that happens when in these things, but it's well worth it. And for me, it's just I'm a gratitude person, man. So like, just to be able to have actually gone through something like this is something that very few people get to do. So it's so cool to be able to do that.
I love that. Have you got any recommendations on where to find someone to help you implement Traction, or an EOS?
So EOS trains, that has a training program, and so I have I know a couple of people who have gone through their training program to become EOS integrators, and I wouldn't doubt if they have that on on their website, like a list of people who've been certified. That's where I would start. I'm not sure. We had a recommendation from another a mentor of mine, actually, that's how we got to our integrator. He used this company as an integrator for his agency, so we used that. So in the contracting space, there are a couple of companies that do implement that. I've seen them at trade shows. The Contractor Connection, I think they do. They do an EOS implementation. There's a few of them out there. Yeah.
Like anything, do some research. From memory, Traction does have certified implementers, so there's options there. And then we interviewed and brought on someone for the role of ops and integrator, and they introduced us to Traction. That's how we got into it. So that was
when you're
really
interviewing people for your like a general manager position or a operations type of person, look at their experience in EOS. It's becoming more and more popular, and there are a lot of people that are well trained in EOS that could just kind of move into an operations role for you and integrate for you at the same time. Yeah,
absolutely. Mate, what's a question I should have asked you but didn't?
I don't know. We've covered a lot of stuff here, man. We've covered a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
The question that you should have asked me that you didn't ask me is, when am I coming to Australia to visit? That's the question.
I love that. Yeah, we got to get you out here.
Flying into the future. I love that. That's a great way to put it, huh?
Yeah.
You live in a beautiful area of the country. I've watched your social media and stuff like that, man. That's pretty cool. I don't know, man. That's, we've covered a lot of stuff. I think we've gotten some good info for the people.
Absolutely. Where can people connect with you? What's the best way to get in contact with you?
Yep. roofermarketers.com, at the Roofer Marketers on all social media, at Roofing Success Podcast. Where you will see us everywhere. So
very clear, concise branding. I think that's the last little nugget for anyone who's with us. Jim, you've been absolutely fantastic. It's been a pleasure having you on the I Drink from Skulls podcast. You'll have to grade me now, mate. We're at the end of the day.
Yeah, man. We got a solid 9. Solid 9.
Nice. Hard to be a 10. Nobody's a 10. I might come up with some branding that I'm just nobody, because nobody's a 10. I'll have to get there at one point. Thank you very much. Dropping gold all day long. It's been a pleasure to have you on. And that is a wrap from the I Drink from Skulls podcast. We'll see you on the next episode.